The past couple of days have been really emotionally up and down. I told our whole EOC staff that we have to be aware of what's happening to us emotionally so we can go forward the right way. Because most of them have been working so many hours and so long on high tension things. On the record, I told human resource men back, I have a right to kill myself, but I don't have the right to kill staff members because of what I was demanding of them. Of working full-time up there 7 days a week, and when they can find time to come to this place and do their regular job. All I can say to this council and the people of this island is, I'm sure we did some things that we could have done better. Absolutely. Always that is the case. But what we're trying to do here, I think, is with only one mission, is try to do what is best for the people of this island. I'll give an example of just yesterday. I'm trying to clear that office of emergency response people and visual aids and all of those things to get ready for yesterday afternoon that we called a rush meeting with emergency response for Hurricane Hester, which continued through the afternoon and nighttime, and first briefing this morning with staff and a full briefing with the responders now at 7 o'clock in the morning with all different kind of visual displays on what their job is going to be. All of it with only one mission, which I'm trying to tell you that represents the people of this island, that we're just trying to do the best we can with what we have, what we know, and meet all our responsibilities. We are trying to do everything proactive. I listened to some of the testimonies this morning, as you had to sit there and listen to all of it. We will follow up on those things that are valid, and I assure you I'll pick on one thing. And I thought, okay, the mistake is ours because we thought we did a fair job of communication, but obviously we did not. And I learned that in being a teacher, when students make mistakes, you better look at yourself because you didn't teach them well enough. And more than one of your testifiers said that we cut off the electricity. There was enough information by HALCO at the careful consideration of trying to prolong the electricity as long as they could without jeopardizing the safety of others because the lines were all being affected. The county government has no authority except if we deem it an emergency that you have to cut it off, like if a house is on fire, the fire department requests power shut off. We didn't shut off the power. Hawaii Electric Light Company did everything they could to prolong that the power was not shut off, and they notified us that they were going to do it. I don't blame the residents, for being mad and thinking why did we have to cut off the power? But those are the things that we have to get better in communication, and we will always try to get better in that.
Ms. Leilani?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mayor, for being here, and thank you for listening to a lot of the testimony that was presented related to Communication 1012. And those were my exact same takeaways. The community was frustrated, the information was challenging to get, and we do live in different times. There was a time where radio reached everybody, but now people get information from social media, from the radio, from word of mouth. And I really do appreciate you highlighting that communication is the key. Having said that, and listening to you acknowledge that that could be done better, what can the community take away from this point that you would suggest to make that better for future events. Yeah, let's just start there. I think that's what the community really wants to hear. We're learning our lessons. It was a tough lesson to learn, something very complex and comprehensive, something we've never experienced. But I want to put a carrot out there so that the community knows that we have listened, we have learned our lessons, and maybe there's one or two suggestions on how to better communicate.
First of all, I thank the council for allowing a situation where the community can come forward, because that's one of the ways we learn with that. But in answering your question is, I'll give us what just occurred. We knew that volcano for a while was greatly affected by the loss of business. We knew that school was going to start, all of those things. We knew that the cracks were widening. We were monitoring that almost 24 hours. As soon as an earthquake occurs, no matter what time of the day or night, the road was walked to see if there was any hazard that had to be patched or slowed down or whatever, or fixed. It was quite clear last week that we needed to ASAP make an alternative road, although we had paper plans what to do. National Park was contacted personally by communication, by letter, as well as by person to review what our requests were, because that was the first alternative. It was clear after visitation there that that was not possible. It's emergency vehicles only, to literally almost be a walk-through. So by general population. So what did we do last week? Public Works worker went house to house in the golf course subdivision notifying. What did we do after that? Immediately schedule a meeting the day after with the whole community. And those are the things that, if you look back, I told the community that I wish I was further ahead of the game, that this was the week before, that I don't have to rush this, but we didn't project that kind of damage was to be will occur. But on that, a house-to-house was done. On that, a rushed meeting was done on the night of Thursday, to tell them what we were going to do. In regards to the other kind of concerns expressed by people here, I think you know that initially we were having meeting with the community twice a week because of time demands, because it wasn't just us going there, it was every agency that working there had to be pulled out and to go there. So we changed that to once a week Tuesday. On that, we changed the meeting format by having every agency had a lot of information to set up stations that people could come up to the station and ask individual questions before and after. All of those things, as you can see, are adjustment made as we go along to improve communication. You take like the mass evacuation like we had to have Kapoho and Vacation Land that commenced in the middle of the night. Even with that rush, we wanted to make sure our message was clear, that every house was given a printed instruction, why they were being rousted, and what the instructions were as far as when to complete the evacuation. I am proud of a lot of it, Councilwoman Leilani, but you are right, and I hope I admitted it openly. We learned from each one. We'll try to get better. I think we are getting better. In regards to our messages are duplicated on Facebook also. We make messages at 6 o'clock in the morning to try to get that done because so people go to work. And we make one in the afternoon as well, on schedule, and intermittent if necessary. And that is also on Facebook. It goes on hard copy elsewhere, as well as the people who sign up by phone messages. Every radio station get the same message. And so we try to cover all that. But still, this morning, people who came to you with concern, I had a couple came straight up to my office, and they were squeezed in regards to listening to their concern. I won't give her name, but her concern, I think, was expressed that we had identified her property as uninhabitable, so therefore made her ineligible for a loan. And that was a miscommunication, I would just say on our part, because certain information did not filter down. When you're in a job situation like this, I guarantee you, I hope you trust us on this, we are trying to address the problems as we are made aware of it. Some, it's relatively easy, so obviously some are not. Like the one that she came up to the office is relatively easy. It was just, we need to make sure that the right people get that information. Others is we'll just continue to work on. And I don't care, what, I don't think there'll ever be a time when I'll say, we're perfect.
Thank you, Mayor. And, I want to thank Ms. O'Hara. I saw this as an opportunity for the community to share their concerns, but also from a bigger perspective, a larger debrief of all of the events and stuff that we could do better. And if I could just leave with one suggestion, and this is something my father taught me, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Sometimes we have to build in a lot more listening sessions than talking sessions. So I know that's rather challenging, but as we disseminate information, we also have to carve out time to listen, to ensure that the community is actually getting the same takeaway from the information. So if I could just leave that one suggestion. Thank you. I yield.
I wish I had 3 years.
Thank you, Ms. Leilani. All right, Ms. Ruggles, go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you for being here and taking time to address us. I know it's been really challenging past few months, and there has definitely been an issue with civil defense implementing inconsistent policies in a variety of ways. And we really need to be a agency that the county's people can count on. And I have a lot of questions based on what the testifiers asked and expressed. And so I was wondering, is now the appropriate time to ask these, or will somebody from Civil Defense be here?
Well, I think we're going to come up on those questions. I'm not sure how long Mayor is going to want to be here because of your situation. I know you were on your way home. But we are going to have the discussion from Ms. O'Hara's communication, and I think we can discuss your questions. I see you want some answers, though, from the mayor. Can I ask Ms. O'Hara to weigh in on this one
Sure.
before, yeah. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that we did invite Civil Defense and made them aware that this communication was being heard. I don't see anybody, am I missing somebody? No, don't see anybody from Civil Defense here, except the mayor.
I'll take the rep for that. And since I knew I was going to be asked to come here, I told them I'd represent them and try to answer the questions.
Thank you. I figured, we put our agendas together weeks in advance. I wasn't counting on Hector paying us a visit. Sorry.
Ms. Ruggles, how many questions do you have for the mayor?
5, 6, 7 questions.
Okay, if you can run by them really quickly, and I think in all deference, we have more people, and I think we can cover some of your questions in our discussions later on in this agenda, too.
Okay.
Thanks.
I really like this because the community is here and they can hear the answers. So my first question is, why is the community center blockaded?
What is what?
Why is the community center in Leilani blockaded?
I'm just going to answer in general, and I'll follow up if necessary. I think certain areas, when we address the Leilani Estates community, we told them, please understand this. We're going to make a lot of policies that people are not going to like because they have to be made with the community in whole and not for individual, convenience. in regards to certain areas of the community was blocked off for a simple reason of enforcement on safety and hazard factor and risk factor. Whether the community center was involved in one of them, and I'm not that absolutely sure, but I can follow up. But on a general basis, the area is blocked off for security reasons to not allow free access by people that don't belong there.
Okay.
And that's, if I may elaborate on that, Ms. Ragos, in making policies, whether it be in a coastal area or any other area, that was the biggest problem. If you're not dealing with a lot of people, it's easy. But when you're dealing with a place as vast as that area there that extends all the way to coastline, in the privacy of the responding group, I refer to them as the cockroaches that come out at night, meaning the people who look for opportunities to steal, look for opportunities to make money off of other people's misery. And sometimes you got to make policy to seal off certain areas just for them. And it makes it inconvenient. I've been to that community center many times for meetings and kids playing and whatever. But to leave it open for the community, I can see right now would have posed a big problem.
Okay. Thank you. One testifier said that he had collected 50 testimonies from people wanting to have access to their homes. What conditions will need to exist before civil defense will allow people to go back to their homes?
I'm not aware of that 50, but I do know in the general policy, first of all, most of the areas of Leilani now, except for the lower portion, people have access to. That was changed several weeks ago. If the area is considered to be a high hazard area, the only people allowed in that area is people with escort.
Okay. Thank you. And somebody just texted me. They wanted me to ask about the Pahoa pool and what the plans are for when it will be reopened.
I have to claim ignorance on that, Ms. Ragos.
Okay.
I'll find out.
Okay. They also asked about the skate park and the baseball fields. Okay. Are there any alternatives to the placard system being looked at?
On the placard system?
Yeah. Or is a civil defense looking at any alternatives to the placard system?
Right now, as you know, the whole situation has changed because the lava is no longer a threat.
Mm-hmm.
Toxic gas is no longer a threat because it's, I don't know what's going to happen, but it seems to have shifted to Pu'o a little bit because Pu'o now is emitting gas that it hasn't emitted for months or weeks. And that has to be evaluated. But in regards to, hopefully, if the physical threat of the eruption is that why roadblocks were made and evacuation areas were made is no longer, necessary. And it is our goal to lift the evacuation order for the whole area, but that has to be evaluated. We evaluate that not with our expertise, but with a White Vulcan Observatory expertise. People think that we judge it strictly by the fountaining. I wish it was that simple, because that rift line, not a scare tactics, but the southeast rift line runs right through Leilani Estates. And that horrendous things of, we counted, 25 different fissures, and most of them were through Leilani Estates. And people have to understand that any one of those old fissures could have erupted any time. We just don't have the knowledge which one. We were all shocked, truthfully, when fissure number 8 kept exploding. And then to the volume it did, that required mass evacuation in no time. And consensus by HVO is any one of those fissures that could happen. And that's why we had to make evacuation policies based on that.
Mm-hmm.
But if this quiet period extends, and HVO will make that determination based on tremors and everything else, then hopefully we can lift it.
Great, thank you.
And I do want to conclude that with this. I hope everybody watching or listening know that the people who have to make the decision to tell people, You cannot stay in your home. It's not an easy one. All of us, to some degree, we have homes, and even tsunami, we know how hard it is to tell them to leave. And especially something like this, when you say leave, and inside, you know, there's a possibility they'll never see their homes again. Just like all of Kapoho and Vacation Land people. You know, when they left that night and early the next day, they never saw it again. And that was the bulk of the whole. Over 500 was in that area. And the decision was not an easy one, but it was made because we thought it was that big a threat. We are trying as hard as we can to let these people in without making decisions that we think is too risky for their safety.
Thank you. One testifier said that Helco had told them that Civil Defense told Helco to shut the power off.
You know.
If this is true.
No, if that's, first of all, that's not true. I just said that's not true.
Okay, great.
Our instructions to Halco is to keep the power on as long as possible for any kind of normalcy in life. For a worker to say, blame civil defense, say, I'm so used to that, it just goes here and out the other year. I don't mean that to be facetious or anything, but I've heard it said, oh, civil defense said this, civil defense said that. And it's common for people to say that. But I just want you to know, and whoever is watching or listening, the decision to shut off power or water is not an easy one. I think you know how much work HealthCo did to extend it. I think you know how much work Water Department did to extend the water usage until it no longer could be done, where bypasses just didn't work. But we would not. The only time we would require power be shut off is we feel that in the interest of safety it should be shut off, which have been done before.
Is Civil Defense looking at any new strategies to include the Leilani residents in on the decision-making moving forward?
In regards to decision-making for safety, rarely. There are times when we don't seek input on especially decisions of safety for the whole. You will have an impossible situation of, because not to get rude about it, but consensus for those kind of decisions should be made on only the mission of safety and not popularity of numbers game. And naturally, I don't blame this side for saying yes, and I would say no. I don't even pretend to do that, and I will not pretend to do it here. When we make decisions, the evacuation lines is made on the best information we have on safety and enforcement of it.
Okay, so assuming the answer to that would be no,
Pardon?
that Civil Defense is not willing to include any Leilani residents in on decision-making.
I just told you what my answer was to your question in regards to when we're going to open it up. Some of the times, you know, in regards to safety is not a physical safety, it's the element of protection from looting or those other kind of considerations. But in regards to now, you know, in regards to opening it up, it will be based on what HVO tells us of safety.
Okay, thank
And
you.
then we'll let the affected residents know as soon as possible. But I think if you talk to many of the residents, fluctuations has been made in regards to passes, in regards to hours, etc. I'll take the hours, for example. When we first made it, it was based on 6 o'clock in the evening. Because of their concern, it was extended. You know, those things naturally was input from the public.
Great. And my last question, do you have any comments on geothermal?
Geothermal? Well, geothermal was a nightmare for a while when this eruption occurred, because of the simple fact that they had three, if my memory recollects right, production wells and 4 or 5 injection wells, that if you did not mitigate some kind of action and lava burst the pipes, we would have a tremendous problem of hydrochloric acid release.
Right.
And actually, that's why I asked the governor for a certain person to be with me 24 hours a day to develop a plan to seal it. And it was a lot of work, but it was done. So there was no threat there. Now, if your question asks in regards to where do you go from here on geothermal, that's totally I would use this as a podium opportunity. You know, a bill was passed called Act 97 that took away all the responsibilities of the county government in the enforcement regulations in regards to geothermal industry that now belongs solely to the state government of Hawaii through Act 97 that was passed a year before. And I will proudly say, I stood up and said, this is wrong. It should not be. This affects the people of the island of Hawaii, and the people of the island of Hawaii, regulations on this should be by you, the county council. Now it belongs to the state. So my answer is academic. In regards to what will happen, first of all, industry has to make a huge decision because on the public safety element, I will not discuss any possibility of opening that area up to any kind of activity until HVO says it is a safe issue.
Yeah, I agree with you. The people who live in their community know what's best for their community. Well, thank you so much for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ruggles. And council members, if there's no more questions for Mayor Kim, I would really want to let him go home and rest, but I really appreciate.
And only that because, you know, the doctor made me promise that.
I know, and I know. We sort of figured that, so we don't want to be responsible for you not listening to your doctor, okay? So we really appreciate that you did come down because I know you wanted to address some of the concerns of the citizens. And I think, Mayor, from what I'm hearing or what I heard this morning, I think from your position, what the decisions you make, I think the people are affected on such a human level that sometimes they don't connect, you know, because they're coming from a place that we as government decision makers, you know, have to make decisions not based on emotions, but all of these people are very emotionally distraught, and so I appreciate you coming in, and I thank the testifiers. So this will conclude our.
And I would like to take this opportunity now to just speak as Harry Kim. Like the hundreds of other people like me, you know, we lost something so special that no words can describe it, as far as the lifestyle, the beauty, things that took 1,000 years for nature to develop. And the pain is something that the sadness will be there until forever. But I will say this, I really believe a good percentage of the people understand what we've been trying to do and to some degree appreciative. You take like the hard work of the shelter. You won't find any jurisdiction that will entertain, good food, you know, the best they can do for 500, 300, and 100 people, 24 hours a day, that kind of thing. I was just talking to someone when I first learned about Florida evacuation. What do they tell them? Go north. They don't tell them shelter here or there or worry about feeding them nor do they have programs to follow up long term. We all know about the horrendous examples of tragic fatalities because of no programs. But what I want to conclude here, we develop a conceptual plan which I think is very important for not only Puna, but for the island, as far as economic growth, etc. We really need a council to be involved. We really need your time and to get involved with us and the support of it, what you finally support when we go to the legislatures to promote this plan.
Thank you, and I think we look forward for you to bring forth and share that conceptual plan with this body so we can, you know, at least weigh in and help support you in that way. So
Thank you.
Ms. O'Hara?
There were some things that were brought up in testimony that can be done through administrative relief. And one of those things is business property tax relief. I spoke with our real property tax director, and in the last emergency declaration, it had been recommended that you consider real property tax relief for the Pahoa Village businesses as well as up in Volcano, where things are really rough. The Volcano Village folks are not here today because they have a cruise ship visiting, and they're able to serve lunch and everything. So all the businesses up there are doing business today, so they weren't able to make it down. We have some written testimony. But is that a possibility that you might be able to consider doing that? Because they're on the edge of going out of business.
First of all, Mr. O'Hara, thanks for bringing that up. On the positive side, I think you know that the county really had initiated reliefs almost immediately to those that we had policies on. On what you're asking about of more relief, I got a memo on that, and I immediately sent it to the people I depend on, the tax department, to come back with recommendations. After I'm through here, I will talk to them to see where we are on that.
I appreciate that. And the other thing, and this is something I perhaps you have ideas how you can impact, because this comes under the state's emergency declaration, and it's the doe care citations. Not only are they very extreme, $5,000 fine, all of the reports I'm hearing, and these are persons who I actually have known for years and years and can trust their reports, are not being treated in a very nice manner at all. And they're receiving these citations for doing what is just basically normal activity. Is there some way we can get a handle on that? I know this isn't a county action, it's state, but the complaints are huge, and much of this is taking up time at the courts right now. And some of the attorneys are taking these cases on, and people are having to spend attorney fees and time to go to court to justify activities that are not criminal. These are already the victims of this event in many cases. So I'm really troubled by that, and that it's continuing to happen. If there's some way that we can intercede and improve that situation, I just implore you to help with that.
We'll look into it with the prosecutor's office. Very briefly on the background on that. When this first started, this is something new to Hawaii also. I guarantee you in the past, I didn't even worry about this. And that was just a few years ago. But it was quite evident, and we met with the prosecutor's office and the police on what do we do about this to prevent as best as we can looting. Because times are different. People plan how to loot. And so the recommendation from the criminal justice system was that you have to make the penalty, and we have to publicize the penalty is that any regards to theft will be treated regardless of the amount, as attorneys on the council can, it's better than me explain it, at a certain amount it's not a felony. And so they said we'll make a special provision that any theft or looting happening during emergency will be classified as a felony, meaning watch out, the penalty is severe. And it is in that discussion or realm of proposal that they got caught up in regards to person trespassing, et cetera, et cetera. And in regards to that, I do not know the scope of it. I will talk to the police and prosecutor's office in regards to, because no one should be penalized unfairly. I'll just say that for now.
I fully agree, and we are having that problem, and those are doe care, not our police, but we are also having problems. Sarah Steiner testified earlier. She's a Poiki resident, as you're well aware, and unable to return to her home, although her neighbors got a pass to get in. I guess you're now able to climb over the Malama Key flow. Anyhow, they found squatters in their house. So,
But
can I finish? And
I'm
then
sorry.
she went to the police to report the squatters in the house in Poiki. I realize it's an isolated area, and was told at the Pohoa station that they can't do anything about it. I pulled Chief aside at our last civil defense meeting, and he told me that they were actually dropping people behind the scenes to deal with this criminal ring that we know is working in there. So I don't really feel our public should be told that there's nothing we can do about it. There are things we can do about it. And so I'm just sharing that with you.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Kim, again, thank you very much for coming, and best of health. Go home and rest.
Thank you.
And we're going to continue.
My lunch hour is over, though.
No, we don't have one today. Mahalo.